I completely automated my $1.4 million a year agency by simply hiring A players. And don't get me wrong, okay, because I have made a fair share of really crappy hires that have cost me a whole lot. I mean, I'm talking about having an overhead, no jokes, that was $80,000 and then being able to slash that down to just about $20,000, give or take. And in this video, I'm going to explain to you my exact interviewing, retaining, and hiring and firing process so that you too can have a team of A players that will supercharge your growth and allow you to actually automate and remove yourself from the day-to-day of the business, where I only work about 4 hours or about 25 hours any given week. So what makes someone an A player in the agency model? How do you identify A players? What are red flags and what roles did I first hire for? All right, so what makes someone an A player? We have to understand that a lot of what goes into hiring the right person is less about their experience and more about who they're going to become. And so that comes down to values. One of the first things that I did was articulate what my values are, okay? And guarantee that you watching this right now, you probably have your own set of values that you live and die by, okay? For me, for example, integrity is very important. So doing what I said I would do when I said I would do it, and then communicating immediately if I cannot do what I said I would do by the time I said I would do it. Okay, that's something that I've always lived by. But when I actually articulated into my company's values that, hey, this is how we stand, hey, this is what we do day to day, hey, this is how we carry ourselves, it became like a filter. Okay, and so every value you have is going to become an additional filter. Another one for me is radical honesty. All right, so in radical honesty, I'm going to share exactly how I feel, what I think to you, to your face. I'm not going to be mean about it. I'm not going to be rude about it, but I will be very direct about it. And so when someone cannot handle radical honesty, that's a dead giveaway that they're not going to be an A player. Look, you could have all the experience in the world, you could do all the things right, but if you can't actually be culturally, if you can't actually be in the company, in the environment that I've created for my team, then you're just not a fit. And that's something that I used to compromise on a lot because I came from this place of, one, not knowing what I was actually looking for. I didn't have these value filters. On top of it, I was a bit desperate that I really needed to get out of the day-to-day and I really needed someone to take over my workload. And I think in many ways I also lacked confidence that I really even knew what I was doing. So I felt like I was putting this halo effect or assigning magical qualities to people because they had maybe a bit more experience than me in a certain area. But what I needed at that time, one, once again, were the right values articulated, and then two, the confidence in myself to ultimately make the right decision. So in many ways, I actually hire slow, but I fire fast, and I'll get more into that in just a sec. Something very important to look out for before hiring someone and then having to go through the pain of training them only then to end up letting them go is red flags. Okay, generally speaking for me, red flags come down to someone that is just looking for money, is looking to just get paid more, someone that isn't really passionate about the field of marketing, someone that hasn't in their free time gone ahead and learned about direct response or marketing agencies. I love it when people come to me and they've either tried to run an agency or they've ran ads before, or they really are into the subject matter, so they're looking it up on YouTube. And then also a lack of coachability. If I say something to someone very directly, very honestly, and they get a bit upset or triggered by it, and they get resistant to it, or they completely shut down, then that's a red flag for me that in both cases that person can't take feedback. And giving feedback, receiving feedback is such a crucial part of being in any small business that if they aren't able to do so, they're just not going to be able to thrive in that environment where the role sometimes may change and they need to adapt and they need to improve themselves. One of the best places that I've been able to find great talent for cheap is through programs that I'm in with other people running businesses like me. So masterminds, Facebook groups, online communities, these are great places to find top talent, but for cheap, because oftentimes businesses are going through changes and cycles where maybe they had a client success manager that was great, but they've outgrown that person because the business model has changed and they no longer have as much work for them. So then they're often looking to transition them to a new company. I found a lot of great people like that. I even found a lot of great people through just straight up searching on LinkedIn and sending DMs and saying, hey, would you be interested in this job? And seeing people say, hey, you know what, I am interested. And oftentimes, for me, it's not really about experience, it's about more than that. It's about the actual hunger. And so when I see someone respond to me that may be a bit entry level and they're like, hey, I really want this, I'll do whatever it takes, that hunger for me in many ways is worth more than that person having every, check box next to the name checked off because they've got XYZ credentials. I do also run Facebook ads. I'd say this is pretty underrated for people to do because they oftentimes go to Indeed and these job posting sites that I'm not really a big fan of. I've even paid tens of thousands of dollars to recruiting companies, but I found that works really, really well as direct response marketers, which is what you are if you're genuinely watching this video. But what I found really works well is Facebook ads, because think about it, we're running ads all the time for our clients, we're running ads for ourselves, for our own acquisition. Why not run ads to find talent? We can create a form that has a lot of friction, a lot of steps to fill out, and then actually have people see an ad that leads to that landing page. And in the ad, what's great about it is that because oftentimes if it's you, which I'd really recommend to run ads as, which is you as the spokesperson, the CEO, the founder, it would be that you would attract a certain kind of person that is attracted to you and your personality, your style of saying things, your style of leadership. And so I've oftentimes just ran ads as me. Hey, I'm Hamza over here. I'm looking for people in this position. Here's the criteria. If you think this might be for you, tap the link below, fill out the job application, and we'll interview you if it's a good fit. These sorts of ads can do so well. The cost per acquisition on those are really, really cheap as well. And oftentimes, if you're looking in countries like Latin America or Asia or Eastern Europe, you can find some really good talent for really cheap. Talent that may not even be on LinkedIn, that may not actively be looking, and that doesn't even know some of these jobs are available, like the one that you have to offer. I think what's very crucial though with the hiring process and the application is to make sure that you add in a few trick questions where they would really have to consume some video or some instructions and then follow through on that correctly, so that if they don't fill it out correctly, they'll get disqualified immediately. Like for example, if you ask them, what's your favorite color or what's my favorite color based on the video I shared with you, it's kind of like a trick question where they would usually just put in like black or blue, but you want to actually have given them the steps beforehand that when this question is asked, I want you to fill this out. So then you're screening for how detail oriented they are and just generally how serious they are. So try to put in some sort of not a curveball, but some sort of a trick question that only the people that have really taken the time to concentrate and focus on the application and put in something quality will end up getting. I also generally have a 3-round interview process where in the first round I test for cultural fit, what their goals are, etc. And in the second round, I will actually do a on-the-spot live test. So if it's a media buyer, I'll pull out an ad account, I'll ask them what they think about the ads, how they can get a lift, how they would recommend optimizing things, what they would and wouldn't do in certain situations on the spot. But as you can notice, that's not the first interview, it's the second interview, because on the first interview, it's so crucial to understand if they have those values, if they have those goals, those aspirations, if you connect with this person on not necessarily a bit more of a personal level, but if you actually like that person, because why even continue with the process if that's not already in place? And then that said, after the second interview is done where you've tested their skills, what you want to do, the third interview is just really a combination where you're doing some last minute, probably negotiation on salary, you're doing some last minute things. Maybe there were questions on the first and second interview that you weren't able to cover, and then the third interview generally is also about expectations, salary, how soon they're ready to get started, how serious they are, etc. And so something I always screen for that no one screens for is that person's relationship with their parents. Okay, most people reveal their true colors when they're around their parents, because if you've ever been at your friend's home and they're around their parents, they all of a sudden become teenagers. That's because there's a lot of unresolved immaturity that exists in parent-children relationships. And I find the A players that I want to hire, generally, they have awareness around their patterns with their parents. They know their origin story. They know exactly what they've been through, where they are, where they want to be as it relates to family. So that's usually a pretty interesting question that I screen for. And then once I hire them, what I will do is I'll put them through a 14-day fire hosing boot camp where I will literally throw them with everything conceivable that I can to just test their capacity. Those 2 weeks are hell. It is very difficult. But if they come through those next 2 weeks shining and really thriving in that environment, and they've soaked in as much information as possible, then that usually means that they're going to survive. But those 14 days, it's usually training. I even set expectations that they may get fired after that time. I'll put some sort of a training temporary pay in place, and I will really set clear KPIs that are tied to outcomes. I don't usually control inputs as much because there's so many ways to get to a certain outcome. So what I care about is the end result and the actual KPI attached to that end result. How they do it is more up to them, but more often than not, I'll equip them with the right tools, the resources, the ideation, the coaching, whatever they need in order to get there. And I'll be very, very closely managing them according to a job scorecard that I've created that teases out whether or not they're actually hitting their KPIs. If you're an agency owner that wants to free yourself up from the day-to-day, I'd probably look at getting a virtual assistant if you don't already have one. An account manager or client success manager is going to be great, and then a sales rep. These are really high leverage hires that you can make. I don't think media buying is that complex. You can definitely hand that over to a highly skilled VA if you already have one, but definitely it's going to go with your virtual assistant to handle a bunch of admin stuff, client success manager to retain your clients for you, and then also a sales manager or salesperson to help you close more deals so you can remove yourself from the day-to-day. That in itself has freed up so much time for me that I cannot even explain. I hope this video was beneficial. If so, leave me a comment. Tell me what other videos you may want to see. As a veteran agency owner, I've also got a free school community with a bunch of free courses inside if you're interested in becoming better at your own paid ads. I hope this was great. I'll see you in the next one.